and welcome to the show where we share the stories of the many who intersect with our healthcare system but are rarely heard from. My name is Kevin Poe, founder and editor of KevinMD. Rate and review the show at kevinmd.com/rate. Subscribe at kevinmd.com/follow. Today in the show, we have Sharon McLaughlin. She is a surgeon, and her KevinMD article, which we'll talk about today, is titled, "We Are All Responsible for Women Physicians' Pay Discrepancy." Sharon, welcome to the show.
Kevin, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being a voice for physicians and all that you do.
Well, we'll get into your article in a little bit. First off, briefly share your story and journey to where you are today.
Long one. Plastic surgery, doing pretty good. Ended up being married, having a child, trying to run the staff, and ended up totally burnt out. So many of us think of burnout when we're working for others, like in a corporate job, but you can also get burned out in private practice. A lot of that has to do with boundaries and being able to say no. Looking back, I wish I had done things differently. I wish I had better systems and processes in place. Took a job in utilization management. Very much an advocate for women physicians and having multiple streams of income. Started a group, Female Physician Entrepreneurs. We just launched a business program, and I am thrilled to be here and just being able to help others. It's something that when people say, do you miss clinical? I don't really miss the clinical, but I do miss interacting. And I feel like this fills the void, being able to help others.
So a lot of people say private practice is an escape from hospital base or corporate base, and you got burnt out from that. So tell me, what are some of the things that you would have done differently in your private practice setting?
Okay, I worked too much in my business. I didn't work on my business. I would have stepped back and really learned what it takes to run like the back office. I was so busy doing emergency room call, running around, taking patients, patient care, managing the staff, that I truly never learned the backbones of running like the back office of a practice, a medical practice. I'm sure there were practice managements when I started, but I didn't look into that. I just jumped right into the practice and expected to figure out as I went. And that wasn't the case. I remember being surrounded by men physicians who their wives ran their office. I would talk, like if we would hang out or whatever, and they'd be like, "Oh, you don't know that." I said, "No, I don't." And it occurred to me that's probably a really great setup. Like the doctor needs to doctor, and there needs to be a strong office manager or somebody that can really run the practice for you. That being said, I'm a strong believer that you should know the ins and outs. You don't have to do it, but you're better off learning it at the beginning, spending time with others. If it means like paying for a mentor, just going to other offices and learning how to run. Speak to the billers, speak to the people that are doing the revenue cycle, speak to the schedulers, really get to know the backbones of an office. And nowadays, I think with different Facebook groups, it's much easier to learn how to run a practice than when I started. Like I said, we just jumped in and did it.
All right, so let's talk more about your KevinMD article titled, "We Are All Responsible for Women Physicians' Pay Discrepancy." Now, for those who didn't get a chance to read your article, just walk my audience through it. Share the story why you decided to write it.
Yeah, we know that there's discrepancy in pay with women physicians. So why is that? If you look at, there's one article that I remember seeing from the time that women physicians enter the workforce, right from residency, the discrepancy in pay and what is offered. And that was in several, not all the fields, but I think it was like 90+% of them. So you have to wonder, like, why is that, right? So I think that there should be better transparency in pay. I also think that we know that women physicians, their time is less flexible in the sense that they get called more often from patients reach out more to women physicians. So therefore, those calls have got to be documented. You spend more time in the electronic medical record, which is time consuming. And that's a problem. And the other thing is there's a higher rate of depression and suicide among women physicians. So part of this is, I believe it's up to the employer as far as pay transparency, being fair to men and women. Like, why would that study show that there's a discrepancy in pay right from residency when we're all
So talk
equal?
about that discrepancy. So just to give my audience a sense of the scope, how much of a discrepancy is there?
Could be anywhere from like 20%, and we could pull it. But the problem is, even if it's 5%, over years, that's compounded. If you think about the interest over years, it could be 5%, but then as your raises go up, and if you had invested that money, Before there could be like $1 million in the course of a career. And that I find hard. I have this discussion a lot with my husband. We don't see eye to eye on that. He feels like we both feel like women are the primary caretakers of children. Not in all cases, but in a lot of cases. So then they ask for more flexible schedules. They're not working as much, but it's more than that. If you do pay hour per pay hour, there is a difference. And that's why I'm concerned. So I believe that the employers need to be more transparent and be more fair, but I also think it's up to women physicians as well. We know that women physicians and women in general, they don't negotiate as much. Why don't they negotiate? Why don't they self-advocate for themselves? Again, if you're leaving money on the table by not asking, if you don't ask, the answer is going to be no, so you
Mhm.
never asked. So if you go ahead and start advocating for yourself and asking for raises, again, it may not be that much, but over a course of time, that can really add up. It's about working smarter and not harder. No, and then being asked, sometimes people feel like perhaps they're going to burn out. Ask for a half a day of doing something. Again, you could say to yourself, I don't want to ask. The answer is going to be no. You don't know until you put it out there. So I believe it's up to the individual to ask. The other thing is you need knowledge, right? If you don't know what the fair market price is, then how could you negotiate? Where would you even start? Where would you end? Where would like this is a good price for me or not? So it's up to you to do your homework. There are companies out there that will do it for you, or there's groups out there that help you come up with an average, and then you can work from there. But you really should go into negotiations knowing where you stand. And if you can't get the salary that you want, there's other things too. CME hours, the amount of vacation that you're going to take, having that flexible schedule, a day or half day or whatever it's going to be. So it is salary, but if you can't get the salary, there's other things that you can ask as well.
Now, let's talk about a couple things that you said. So, number one, you said employers have to be more transparent. What exactly do you mean by that?
Would it be okay for people to mention right from the beginning what the pay is? And why isn't I can see over the course of time why they want to do that because people excel differently. There's some argument that they should do that as well. But right from the beginning, it should be transparent what salaries in between a man and a female, or however you want to break this down, are. And I don't really have, from that point, I'd have to say that it is up to the employer to be transparent.
And you work with a lot of women physicians, and you said that in general, women physicians may not be as strong negotiators as men. Now, what are some of the reasons that they tell you? What are some of the things that you hear that they could improve on when it comes to negotiating? What are some things that you hear when you talk to other women physicians?
So we know that there's a lack of self-esteem, right? Low confidence. We know that applying for a job, that a man can be 60% qualified and the woman 60% qualified, and who's going to apply for the job? Studies have shown that the men will apply. The women feel inadequate. I'm not good enough. I'm only 60% there. They could even be 80% there and they still want to apply for the job. So some of that falls on them, but low self-esteem. Some of it is a people pleasing. We don't want anyone to be upset if we ask for something. We're asking for something. So we don't want to do that. We people please. We try to do whatever we can to make the other person happy. Those are the two things that come up most commonly.
Now, if you're a woman physician at a negotiating table, or when you want to talk to medical administrators about your job, about the contract, what are some high yield things that they could do during those negotiations that you recommend?
Knowing your homework ahead of time, doing your homework ahead of time, knowing exactly where you stand before you get there. Really, I think so many of us take it for granted what we're able to offer. Really itemize what are you able to offer. And it's more than just seeing patients. Perhaps there's a committee you can get involved in. Perhaps there's some background that you offer as well. So doing your homework ahead of time, knowing exactly where you stand, and being able to negotiate and really speak up for yourself and I'm a big firm believer in having options. So don't let that be the only job that you're going for. Know that you have options. I know this is on the side, but I believe that if we have options, we're better negotiators because we have less to lose. So say, for instance, you were investing money and you had wealth. You wouldn't feel so quick to take the first job that came along because you have wealth and you know that you can walk away from this one. I think sometimes that we're pushed into positions, or we feel like we're pushed into positions where we need to take the first thing that comes along, and that's not necessarily true. So make sure that you're getting financial literacy as well, spending time doing self-development and working on you as a person. If you are able to build up financial wealth, you'll be less likely to take the first thing that comes.
So, as you were sharing your story, one of the things that you mentioned was that it was important for women physicians to have multiple streams of income. Talk more about that.
There's so many things that we can do. For one, like with the business program, we're starting off with basically where you are right now. So what can you do? In general, I think physicians are pretty good speakers. And if you really put your mind to it and worked on the speaking skills, you would improve. So why not speak about something and get paid for it? The other thing that you can do is have a program, like, in addition to being paid for patients, something that you're really passionate about. Perhaps it's, like in my case, negotiation, right? I'm an advocate for negotiation. Do a framework that you call yourself. Mine will be MAC, short for my name, but also my dad's name. So it has a lot of meaning to me. But M for mindset, A for asking, C for just getting out there, having that conversation, being able to ask and have strong communication. And then K for knowledge. You need to know the knowledge. So there's many things that you can do. Kevin, you yourself, look at all that you've done with KevinMD. It's amazing. Like we followed you and you had your own program. Now you've joined. And the same thing, like you've done speaking, you've done podcasts, you have associations, partnerships, ambassador programs, affiliate programs. There's a lot that people can do. It's not just all seeing patients. That's where you'll make the impact because that's what you wanted to do as far as getting into medical school and helping people. But there are other ways to partner with other programs and have your own program as well. Books we mentioned, you can do that. It's hard to sell a book. A lot of this, nothing happens overnight. There truly is no passive income as far as I'm concerned. Real estate is probably the easiest, but it still takes money to get there. Like you need money to invest, and therefore it's not truly passive because you have to get that money first. But there are many different groups out there that can help as far as like different things that you can do. Look around, surround yourself with those people that are doing different things. But real estate is something I most commonly see. Having different courses, whether it's wellness or dieting, is always a big thing, although not as much anymore. People, I think, are tired of diets. But wellness programs where physicians do a wellness program. Do something that you're passionate about. And it could be something totally outside of medicine as well.
Now, in our world, where physicians are more than the degrees, where physicians are doing things other than seeing patients in the exam room or doing procedures in a hospital, you're already preaching to the converted. But I talk to other physicians, and the majority of which saying, I'm too busy, doctors should be seeing patients. But there's almost a little bit of a condescension when they see other physicians with side gigs. So talk to that majority. Why is it important for them to diversify income streams? Why is it important for them to find a passion sometimes out of clinical medicine?
It may not be for them. You have to have a want and a need. And if you feel fulfilled doing what you're doing without the need, like you don't feel like you're stuck. Why do people change? There's some usually indicator of why they change. They feel unfulfilled. They feel stuck in a corner. They feel like they're heading to burnout. They're not exactly happy. There are quite a number of physicians that are truly happy 100% exactly where they are, whether it's an employed position or they're in private practice. They don't need anything else. They feel fulfilled. And that's perfect for them. They're enough, right? Exactly where they are. But if you feel yourself questioning, why am I doing this? This isn't what I expected. Then I invite you to step back and say to yourself, think and ponder, why are you asking those questions? It's usually an indication that you're not fulfilled, that you want to make an impact in some other way, shape, or form. I don't know what that is, but that's why you surround yourself with other people.
We're talking to Sharon McLaughlin. She's a surgeon, and her KevinMD article, which we're talking about today, is We Are All Responsible for Women Physicians' Pay Discrepancy. Sharon, what are some of your take-home messages that you want to leave with the KevinMD audience?
Always speak up for yourself. If you don't speak up for yourself, nobody else will. You're the one that gets to set boundaries. Nobody else gets to do that. It's up to you to speak up for yourself.
Sharon, thank you so much for sharing your story, time, and insight. Thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Kevin.